G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Bounty Riders podcast. A lot to talk about today. We have a lot of news on the injury front and the suspension front as well. I want to take a look at Melbourne after their really disappointing loss on the weekend. Of course, we have our fan favourite segment in the Flog of the Week, and we'll be doing our tips and AFL fantasy breakdown as well. So let's not waste any more time, let's roll the intro and get straight into it. And then Rankin from the pocket, don't tell me, Isaac Rankin!
Yeah.
He's just got the license for a brothel.
Well, I think Gather Round's going to be more than just AFL this next season.
It's at the handle at the back, Nick Dankos to get the pies home! He's done it! So guys, of course, we've got round 13 coming up. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Bit of injury news that I wanted to talk about first of all. So there's quite a lot of injuries from last week, but a couple more I want to focus on. First of all was the Max King injury. He's actually avoided significant structural or ligament damage to his knee. He is still a wait and see, so a fitness test will have to be done before he can be picked for selection this week. But that's interesting because St Kilda probably looked a lot more potent last week when he was out of the side in the third and fourth quarter because they had a lot more options to go to, or they used a lot more options. So I'll be interested to see how they do with Max King this week, if they decide to play him or if they will not rest him, but just maybe, play with a little bit more caution. Because St Kilda against West Coast last week definitely looked a lot better at stages, and they do play the Gold Coast on Saturday night. So we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting one. The Crows, they got a couple of injury concerns from the game. One of them, which happened after didn't happen after the game, but only came to light after the game, was Matt Crouch. It does seem, unfortunately for him, that he will require shoulder surgery, and he's going to miss the rest of the season. That's really unfortunate for the Crows and Matt Crouch. He was really getting into his work this season. The last couple of years, he was out, and couldn't get his way into the side, and this year he's really been playing quite well, so it's really unfortunate for him. Jordan Dawson as well is battling a foot complaint, and he nearly missed the game against Hawthorn last week, but just had to do a fitness test before the game, and he did pass it, but we saw in the game he wasn't that good, so I think maybe he may be out this week. And also Taylor Walker, there's still a little bit of concern about his back injury, so I think he may be out this week for the Crows. I'm a little bit unsure as to how they will perform they should be fine against the Tigers, so I would say that they will probably rest Taylor Walker. Maybe not so much. We'll have to see. I think Dawson will probably play if he's 70-80%, but I don't know about Taylor Walker. I think they'd probably rest him this week. On the Bombers front as well, there's a couple of injuries from not only the game, but in the VFL for a young player. Kyle Langford, who was subbed out. It does seem that he did get a hip pointy injury, but it doesn't sound too concerning, so hopefully he's all good for the Bombers. Todd Goldstein as well, he was a late withdrawal with an ankle injury, but he wasn't quite good to go for that game. If anything, he was more rested, so I think he'll be fine for the Bombers game on Sunday night against Carlton. And an unfortunate one, just injuries galore for this guy, unfortunately. Zach Reid seems like he's suffered a pectoral injury, so he's obviously going to be out for a couple of weeks for quite a while as well. So that's really unfortunate for the Bombers because they're just starting to build into their season, and unfortunately now just a couple of injuries piling up, and obviously the loss against the Gold Coast wasn't the greatest. I don't think I think they will be making finals, knock on wood, and hopefully for their sake they're high up so they can finally break their drought. But sorry, I may have a bit of a cold coming on. That's the big reason why I'm wearing the beanie, by the way. It's not even because the big freeze is coming up. It wasn't like a gimmick to wear the beanie. It is just so cold in this room, and I'm getting a bit of a cough. So that's kind of why I've got that on. But of course, if you probably be doing a stream this week for the King's birthday. I'll probably do a stream for that one to see if my brother's going to be able to come over, and we may do another one throughout the week. I'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's probably on the channel front. Jesus Christ, hopefully I can get through this whole thing. On the suspension front, now there was quite a few suspensions this weekend. A couple that I want to take a look at is the Rising Stars, who were the two contenders, not anymore. Harley Reid has been offered 2 weeks, Sam Darcy's been offered 2 weeks, and then Riley Sanders has been offered a week. Now, with the Darcy one, I haven't seen if they're going to challenge at the Bulldogs. This has been recorded on a Monday, so I'm not too sure. I don't think they will. There's no point. He's going to get 2 weeks no matter what. There's no way the tribunal's going to overturn that. So he's going to get 2 weeks. That's unfortunate. But yeah, we'll get to that in a sec. Harley Reid, 2 weeks. I thought that was a little bit harsh. I thought maybe he'd only get 1. They are challenging it, the West Coast Eagles, so I think maybe this will be downgraded to 1, but I don't think there's a way he's going to get off fully. I think he's going to get a week. The Sanders one, on the other hand, I can't believe he's got a week. He ricocheted off of a Collingwood defender and then hit the head of Jeremy Howe. No way does he deserve a week for that. I thought that was crap, to be honest. I thought if he's going to bump onto someone else and then accidentally bounce off of him and then into someone else and then hit them in the head, I don't think that's really his fault. So I think Sanders should probably challenge that, but we'll have to wait and see what the Bulldogs want to really do. I think a lot of teams now are cautious to try and appeal, because I think even Brad Scott said it last week, saying that there's not a lot of leeway on the side of the teams if there's, like, because if they get it wrong, there's not much that goes their way except for more money lost. So yeah, that's probably a thing the clubs have to think about. But the Riley Sanders one shocked me, to be honest. Harley Reid maybe lose a week, but other than that, I think that he's probably, I think it may be 2. I don't know if they'll overturn that. They're definitely not going to overturn it. They may lower it to 1, but that's pretty much all they can do there. And Darcy, I don't think they'll challenge that one. On the Rising Star front, though, I don't think that suspension should go into it, because it's not like, I don't think it should happen in the Brown law either, to be honest. I think we could probably get rid of it, and it's not a big deal. I don't even know why it's that bad, to be honest. Like, I don't think that should be an issue, because it's not like with the Coleman, if you get suspended. I don't think that's a real big... I don't think that should be a part of the concern when it comes to votes, because let's be honest, if you play... or if you miss like 2 games due to suspension, you still win the Brownlow. I still think you deserve it. Unless maybe there should be a cautionary thing of maybe if you do something really bad, if you go to the if you get 4+ weeks, maybe you shouldn't be eligible. But even then, I mean, if you can still win it from that point, I mean, you've done well. I don't think it should be that far. But also with the Rising Star, it doesn't really mean that much this year. The 2 best rookie players this year so far, anyway, has been Harley Reid first and then Sam Darcy. So whoever gets it now, it's kind of like a wash. It's not going to really matter. I mean, the nominees will probably have to be Darcy, Wilson for St Kilda. God, there's not many others, to be honest. I'm just trying to think. Maybe there's a couple of George Wardlaw for North Melbourne could be an option. I mean, maybe, I don't even know if Sam Clousey can get involved. I don't know if he's too old. He could potentially be a opportunity. Jeez, I mean, I don't think there's many more options that are going to try and win it now. I think it was those 2 as the front runners, and the rest were kind of running in second place. So I don't really know what they're going to be able to do about that. Maybe even McKercher could maybe be an option now. He's probably one that's played pretty well this season. But yeah, there's not really a lot out there that we would really expect to, who have been as to the point of Darcy and Harley Reid. That's what I'm kind of saying. I still think those sort of players that I just mentioned can be really good players, of course. But unfortunately, it just seems at this stage that they're not going to... It's kind of like, at this point, whoever finishes now is going to be the 3rd place finish for the Rising Star now. Basically, 3rd position is going to be getting the award. But, I mean, that's just the end of the day. That's the rules now. You can't change that sort of rule mid-season, like the holding the ball. I guess we'll talk about the holding the ball ruling this week. I actually think they umpired it pretty well. I thought that was a decent change. I thought they did it well. They went a bit overboard at times, but I think that was always going to happen in the first week. I am very happy that Sydney didn't play this week, because I think it would have been very annoying watching the holding the ball. There were a couple of missed ones as well. The Dacos one on Friday night was an absolute shocker. I don't know how they missed that. That should have been holding the ball in the old way they were interpreting it, let alone the new way. So I think it's a good direction that they're going in here. I think it was great that they were calling... The one thing that a lot of people aren't really talking about is the fact that the ball ups were called so much quicker. I think that was great. I think it made the game feel a lot quicker, and that was something I was really happy to see. So, you know, I mean, everyone's happy to all the shit on the umpires, but you got to give them credit where it's due. And I feel like this week, there were a couple of mistakes, and I don't think, well, I mean, maybe there probably are a few, but I don't think anyone's really asking for it. You can't make mistakes. That's not the problem. The problem was the way they were not paying blatant holding the ball decisions, which they called majority of the time this week. So That's what I did appreciate. I thought it was umpired a lot better. Hopefully it continues to improve. They get a little bit better, especially towards the end of the year. So I hope that's the case. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about here was something to do with a report, like a mass report from Tom Morris on 9 News. Now, again, this is Tom Morris, and if you've listened to the podcast before, you'd know how much me and my brother make fun of him. But there was a lot of reports that he just threw out there that I wanted to talk about. Now, these are like quick fire ones that he just threw out there. But anyway, a couple of things that like clubs and that were pushing for as like a wide sort of review. So the first thing that they were looking at is that Collingwood believes games should be shorter to protect players from themselves. If they're going to make the game shorter, they have to have more games, I believe. Anyway, I don't think that's really... I don't know about that. Richmond especially, but also North, are in favour of clubs being able to trade draft picks 4 years in advance. Other clubs pushing for 2 to 3. I agree with that. I'm really unsure as to why they've capped it at 1. I think that's more than fine. I mean, as long as you can keep track of them, I don't really have an issue with that. Only one club is against a national reserves competition, and that is Fremantle. I don't understand why they would be against that, to be honest. I think that's a great way to bring the game forward, is a reserves competition. I think they should also bring back... I don't know if anyone remembers this. I think it was called the Fox Cup. I'm not sure what it was called. But basically, the best couple of teams from each state league would play in a competition, and the winner would become the champion reserves club. I don't know why they don't do that anymore. I think it was like gone in 2016. But I remember Port Magpies playing in it, and I barracked for the Port Magpies here in South Australia. And that's something that I was really excited about watching. And it brought some sort of watchability to state league competition. And I'm not saying it's unwatchable, but not many people do watch it. And what I'm saying is that I think that'd be a great way to get the state league teams involved in something that people would like to watch, rather than just watching their state league games every single week and then watching, like for the VFL, for example, is there 6 or 7 teams now that are not associated with an AFL club? I think that's about right. And there's only one club now in the VFL that's not like named the AFL, or 2, but I mean Casey's basically the Melbourne Demons, and it's Sandringham, which is not obviously St Kilda's team. So I think I think maybe that should be an option. I'm unsure as to why Fremantle would be against it, but I mean, it's not reported about here. Another one as well is a massive divide between clubs on academies. New South Wales and Queensland teams say that it's a must in the current form. Other clubs strongly disagree. That one's going to be debated forever. I think... I mean, I can give you my opinion, but obviously as a Swans fan, I'm going to sound biased. I think they do need them, because I think it would be nearly impossible for a lot of those clubs, especially if they were to go down the ladder, like Brisbane, if we saw that a couple of years ago. Nearly 10 years ago. Brisbane couldn't keep a player because they were down the bottom of the ladder. And if a club was to fall down to the bottom of the ladder, then it would be nearly impossible to keep players at their club. Like, it's all well and good for the likes of Sydney now, like Chad Warner and that, to stay at the Swans because they're very good and they're very successful. But if Sydney were down the bottom of the ladder, they wouldn't be able to keep those players. They would go back to Perth. Or go back to their home state. I don't think it'd be very easy to. So I don't really have that issue. I think a lot more clubs should try to force the AFL, these clubs' hands in the draft night and pick them early, so then they have to get pushed back in the draft. I think that's something what they should be doing, instead of just letting them go through. Like Errol Goulden, for example, didn't get picked up until pick 35. I think he didn't get picked till pick 35 in the draft a couple of years ago. Like, if someone threw a curveball and picked him up at pick 10, then Sydney would have had to work around that. Or someone could have picked him up. So, I mean, if you think about it, that's something that the other clubs could be doing. But, again, I'm biased, so at least I'm going to point that out anyway. What else has he said here? GWS believes the top 10 draft picks in the national draft should be pure, with no free agency compensation until pick 11. That's an interesting one. I actually kind of agree with that, to be honest. But, yeah, I think it's a little bit wishy-washy. I think it can get a little bit convoluted, but I don't actually mind that. I don't know why that hasn't really been brought up before. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I guess, yeah, I mean, if you look at it, like North Melbourne got pick 3 in the draft last year as well with McKercher. So, yeah, I think that's with the Ben Mackay free agency. I think it's been very interesting the last couple of years. The free agency hasn't really been alive. There's only been a couple of picks the last few years when people have been talking about free agency because a lot of players just go earlier in trades. So I think it's an interesting one, but I think it's a good point to bring up. West Coast want a marquee event in WA, and both WA clubs are pushing for 2 Victorian clubs to play a home game in Perth once per year. I agree with that. I don't think there's any issue with that. I don't like the report that Tom Morris made about a month ago, about the AFL just having gather round 3 times a year. I think that should be a mainstay, just one, but who knows? I don't know how they could do it, but I think that Perth deserves something. I mean, I think the reason why South Australia, not the main reason, maybe not the main reason, but I think there was a contribution to Adelaide getting gather round was because both Brisbane and Perth both got the grand finals in the COVID years. So I think that Perth deserves something as a marquee event. And I think maybe a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I actually like the Victorian clubs asking to play in different states as a home game rather than playing at Marvel Stadium or MCG or whatever. I actually like that. I think it does give a little bit more of a evenness to the competition. Like, for example, the Bulldogs this year are playing 5 games in a row at Marvel Stadium. Like, I think that's in the next 5 weeks. Like, how is that fair? I think they should be asking, the AFL should say, okay, you can have, every single team gets 11 games at home, obviously, but if you get 11 games at home and 5 other away games are at Marvel Stadium, that's not fair. So I think it's fair enough for the AFL, like, all right, you can have your 11 home games, but you've got to play at least 2 in Perth, or you've got to play 1 in, Sydney. Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually a good idea. I think that's something that the AFL should really consider. We've heard, obviously, Collingwood want to play a game in the Gold Coast. I think that's great. I don't know why Collingwood fans would be so angry about it. I mean, they're the ones who asked for it, Collingwood, so I don't know. Anyway, Tigers and Hawks gave strong feedback of the way of the AFL being lacking in the pathway for Indigenous talent. I talked about this I think it was last week. I think that's a very good point. I think they've dropped off considerably in the last, 5 years or so. I don't remember the last player that got picked up from the NT or Indigenous pathways really working through lately. I think the last one I can remember was Taron Thomas. So I think that needs to be worked on a lot more, and I think that's a big market in Australia that the AFL really need to focus on. And the last one here says that North Melbourne want no minimum and increase maximum list sizes. Why did North Melbourne want that? They can barely keep the players on their fucking list. Anyway, I agree with that, but yeah, I mean, you need to cap it at some point. I think they should have a lot more players at the list. And I think and I talked about this last week as well, we talked about the mid-season draft. And I will say, it was good to see that there was, in the mid-season draft, there was only one ex-AFL player picked up. Not to say they don't deserve another go, but it's great to see new people joining the AFL. And I think, again, the rookie list needs to be used for players that haven't, you think there could be some talent there, but you don't want to risk a list spot with them. So you give them a rookie list spot and then see how they go. I think that's how they need to use the academies. I think they do need to increase the soft cap. I know this may seem a bit weird of me talking about this because I don't really talk about things like money and that with the AFL. But I think the soft cap needs to be lifted for clubs, for everyone. Because I think it's great that they all have a cap at the same point. I don't think it should be like soccer in the Premier League where, a big tycoon buys a club and then can just buy every single player best player in the world, and then win 4 comps in a row. Manchester City. But at this point, I think that I like that we have an even competition in terms of money. But obviously it's not even altogether, but you understand that everyone gets a certain amount of money, so the likes of Collingwood can't go and just buy the best midfielder, 3 best forwards, and then have like a VFL side that wins every year as well as their AFL side. I don't think that's fair. So, but I do think that everyone needs a lift in the soft cap. I think a lift in the player numbers and teams should be lifted, and I think that there should be a veterans list added to teams so teams don't add like their veteran players. They want to keep on their lists as like depth, not use them as a rookie list spot. The rookie list spots should be used for players that they haven't had a game yet or have played very few games and want to give them opportunity on a list and can develop them. I think that's a good way to use them, but what do I know? I'm sitting in my room very cold right now, so I could be just a fucking moron. But anyway, let's move on. And I guess we've kind of done this the last couple of weeks. We've focused on a different team. So this week, we're going to focus on the Demons. Because right now, they're sitting in 10th spot. And I think everyone other than my brother predicted North Melbourne to be out of the 8 at the moment. Well, he picked them to finish, I think, 9th or 10th at the end of the year. So maybe he's psychic, he can read the future. But everyone else was thinking Melbourne would be at least in the finals race. But right now, they sit 10th spot. They're formed, they've lost 3 of their past 5. The next 5 games does kind of open up for them. They've got Collingwood this week, then they've got the bye. Then they've got North Melbourne, Brisbane, West Coast, and Essendon. They play North Melbourne and West Coast at home, so they win them, obviously. Brisbane away, that's an interesting one. We'll have to wait and see. Collingwood, I think they lose, and Essendon, who knows where they're going to be at that point. At the MCG, I'll probably give it to Essendon, to be honest. So the next 5, they have 3 teams outside of the 8, and then they have 4 teams outside of the 8 in the next 5. One of them is Collingwood, though. So one team, they can probably get back into the 8 by what would be around 20 or something. So right now, it's not all doom and gloom for the Demons. But is it going to be just them filling the numbers in the finals? I would say probably yes. I've said for a while now, and I think everyone's said it, their forward line is pretty messy, to say the least. They've recruited Ben Brown, what was it, 2020 or 2021? He has really not he had a good year in their premiership year, but since then he's been very poor. They still have not found a forward to take over. Tom McDonald's playing in the defensive 50 right now, which I think he's good at, but they have very good defenders, and their forward line is lacking. If Fritsch doesn't kick goals, and if Petrarca's not kicking them from the midfield or playing up forward, they can't kick a winning score. Now, obviously, this is snowballed into space, into people's eyes because of their massive loss to Fremantle. Was it a long time coming? You could say maybe. You could say maybe because it's in the NT. Maybe they just weren't up for it, which I have a sneaky suspicion that may be the case. But right now, no one's returning from injury this week to come back into the Melbourne side against Collingwood. Their reserves, there's not much producing in that area. I think Bailey Laurie's probably their only one. They've got a couple of rookie players, draft picks that they've used in the last couple of years. They've gone to pick up high draft picks, but they're not really coming on as of yet. So for the now, this team, the Demons are for the now. They're not for the future, let's be honest. They recruited for the now basically through the trade period. They picked up Billings and they picked up McAdam last year. They also picked up Fullerton, but he's basically just a reserve in case Gawn goes down. So right now, they don't have much to go. They don't have much resources to go to. They don't have a lot of injuries. They have Lever, and I can't even remember if Petty played last week. Not too sure. But maybe Petty as well. That's really all they've got on their injury list right now. So Jake Lever, when he comes back, obviously that's a massive in for the Demons. But what else are they going to here? I don't really know if they're at the end of their tenure as a top side. If they're I think they're pretty close to that edge of the cliff of falling off. Now, I think they need to find something through this year's draft. I think they need to go hard on the draft this year, so then they don't do what Richmond did and then just completely fall off the face of the earth in a year. Because between 2021, they was it 2021 or 2022 when they made the finals? I think it was, because they made the grand final in 2020. They lost and then they made it in 2022, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm a bit of a moron. But basically, from 2023 onwards, they went straight down and now they're 17th on the ladder. It's a pretty steep fall from Richmond. I don't think Melbourne are in that bad a state just yet because I still think they are recruiting pretty decently on the draft front. but they've got a lot of concerns. They don't have a key forward. Josh Shackey, I don't know why they recruited him. Like, fucking, he's done nothing. Fuck knows how he got picked up at pick 2 that draft year. Anyway, that's probably Brisbane's fault. But at the end of the day, they don't have a lot, and their midfield's obviously been their prime position for a while with their defence. But since 2021, after the grand final, their forward line has been struggling, to say the least. Like I said, Bailey Fritsch, if he doesn't score, they are ruined. So I don't know what they really do here. They're not off yet. I still think their premiership window is open, but right now there's a lot of question marks on how much closer they are from that window closing. I think that's the question. I think that the window is open, but Gawn's it won't be open in 2 years' time if they keep on tracking the way they are now. Let's put it that way. I don't think they can win it this year. So they have to go hard on the trade period, but they still have to draft well this year as well. They can't simply just throw their trade. They can't do what Richmond did and throw their draft picks away to get likes of like a Tim Taranto or a Jacob Hopper. They have to go decently at the draft as well. So whatever draft picks they do have now, they need to hold, but they do need to pick up a decent player, at the very least a forward. I am very surprised a lot of teams aren't looking at Ben Brown as well, as a key forward option. I don't know where his contract's sitting right now, but this guy kicked 60 goals at North Melbourne before he went to Melbourne, and he won a premiership with Melbourne as well. I'm very surprised that a guy who is like in and out of the side right now is not looking at Ben Brown. I think Ben Brown has some value. I think that's an idea of Melbourne maybe potentially looking at getting rid of him for a different younger forward, or looking for a different younger forward to go with. Sorry, I'm sick. I keep on bloody burping and throwing up and everything. Not throwing up, but yeah. Why did I say that? Anyway, that's something that I think that Melbourne need to look at. Maybe potentially trading out Ben Brown, because let's be honest, they can lose him now. I think that Ben Brown could definitely be the like of... He's a bit older, but look at like Peter Wright from the Gold Coast. He wasn't playing many games. I think in the last year that he played for the Gold Coast, he didn't even play a game. He was playing through the reserves the whole year. He went to Essendon, and now he's one of the key players of their club. I think at a decent club, like even a Collingwood, they struggle to have a key forward. Ben Brown going to Collingwood would be a massive get for them. And them recruiting, I wouldn't say Ash Johnson, but a key forward option. Look, obviously this isn't going to happen. I'm sorry, Collingwood, don't fucking come at me. But a likes of maybe a Myercheck would be an option. I know he's not going anywhere. Don't come at me. But the likes of trading a Ben Brown to a Collingwood or to a higher team club, and then looking to get someone who's a little bit younger, a little bit less experienced, but getting him, or getting someone around that area of a 23 to 27 key forward. I know it's hard to come by. I wouldn't be surprised if they do really go hard for a Ben King type in the year. Even Jack Lukosius. I don't know. That could be another option as well. But that's the kind of things that Melbourne need to think about here. Do we go for a key player, or do we just try and hold on? Because right now, like I said, in 2 years' time, their premiership window closes if they don't change where they are here now. They kind of need to look at I think it's more the Sydney mantra here than the Geelong mantra of falling down for maybe a couple of years and then going back up again with picking up some younger players in the draft, but also not just letting everyone go. Recruiting from not so lesser players, let's say. Like Tom Hickey for Sydney brought a lot to them in that year. He was a recycled player. I think that was a very good get for them. Ryan Clark as well was decent in that year that they made the grand final in 2022. But they also used their academy. But I'm not talking about the academy specifically. They used the picks that they had and they recruited well. I think that's how Melbourne go about it. I don't think they can do the Geelong thing of just getting trading players in and like turning over their list that way. I think they'd have to go more Sydney's way. And I think that's the way they can do it. But again, they have to do something, because right now, that cliff or the window or whatever metaphor I'm going to go with here, it is starting to close now for Melbourne. So I don't really think they can just leave this now, just push it aside like Richmond did, or else they're going to fall off the cliff. And in a couple of years' time, they'll be back at the bottom of the ladder. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at with Melbourne right now. I don't think their premiership window is closed, but I do think it's going to start closing if they don't make things some big changes now. Okay, let's move on. Let's get to our fan favourite segment of the week. Of course, everyone loves it. I get so many messages saying, Dylan, you're amazing. Who's the flog this week? So, of course, this week, we've got a new installment of the Flog of the Week. Oh, yeah, we are back. And this week, it's about a trade rumour, as we like to do, like a fake bullshit trade rumour. But this week, it's not from a just crappy old journalist. It's from an ex-player. Now, I like this guy as a player. I thought he was a great player. And he does comedy stuff now, sort of, on a breakfast show. Or I think it's a drive home show. But I'm sure everyone knows who this is. The Fevolution, Brendon Fevola, is this week's Flog of the Week. Now, you may be thinking, why is Brendon Fevola the Flog of the Week? Well, for some reason, he's gone into the weird move of his career and started making trade rumours. Or player movement rumours. So, I'll try and I'll get the clip up for you guys to play it. But on his radio show of, Fifi, Fev, and Nick on Tuesday morning, they had the genius idea to bring up a new trade rumour of saying that Dustin Martin will retire temporarily. Okay. So, where does it say here? I'm trying to find exactly where he says it because this article is just written a bunch of bullshit. Anyway, so Brendon Fevola goes, my mail is that he will retire after playing 300 games, obviously being Dustin Martin. Say thank you to the Richmond fans after his 300th, have a couple of months off, get fit and get his mind right. His manager has been looking at real estate in the Gold Coast for Dusty to move up and rekindle his friendship with Premiership coach Damien Hardwick, who now coaches the Suns. He'll be getting paid a lot of money to go up to the Gold Coast, sit at full forward, help those younger kids. They'll never played finals and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so your mail is that he's going to retire, take a couple of months off, and then go to the Gold Coast. I don't even think that's legal in the game. You can't do that. You can't just retire and then go to a club. I'm assuming he's saying it's like a delisted free agent. I don't think you can even do that. But even if, even if he can, where your source is, I've got mail. You've never came up with a trade rumor in your life, Brendon. Where are you pulling this out of? So I think this has got a lot of fucking mayo put on it. Let's just put it that way. I think he's probably heard. I think he's just tried to join in on the Dustin Martin's going to the Gold Coast because Damien Hardwick's there. And I'm going to be honest with you. The Gold Coast don't need to get Dustin Martin. There's no... Unless he's going to go on absolute pennies, the Gold Coast don't need him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's looking at real estate in the Gold Coast because every single Victorian journalist is following the cunt every single fucking second of his life. So of course he doesn't know what to do. Of course he doesn't want to be in Victoria anymore. Have you realised players are not talking to the journalists anymore because they don't simply want to talk to you because all they're doing is sitting there waiting for you to make a wrong move so they can start making a bullshit story? That's why Dustin Martin's probably looking at real estate up in the Gold Coast. Now look, I think Dustin will probably retire at the end of the year. I don't think he'll go to the Gold Coast because I don't think they will want to pay the money for him. Because at this point, I think he stays at Richmond or he retires. Because I don't think the clubs will want to pay him a lot of money. The only way he would go to the Gold Coast, and the only way I think the Gold Coast would take him, is if they were paying him maybe 500k. Now, probably 400, I would say. Because he's not really playing that well this year. This isn't the Dusty of old, okay? So, I think that the Gold Coast wouldn't pay any more than that. Would he want to go and play for the Gold Coast Suns? Or would he just want to go and settle into retirement and be a one-club player? Because I think Richmond have done everything right by him. So, I don't think that they would necessarily kick him out. But I also don't think that he would want to do... I feel like he would want to be a one-club player at the end of the day. So, I don't think Dustin Martin's going to be moving to the Gold Coast Suns to play. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's going to do it this way. I mean, he's in 299. So basically, what Brendon Fevola is saying is he's going to play his last game, which is what, this week? Retire, take a couple of months off, then suddenly come back into the AFL system and then be playing for the Suns next year. No, that's not going to happen. No fucking way. The way it may work is that he plays throughout the rest of the season, tells Richmond, look, I think it's time that I go and play football somewhere else, and then he goes to the Suns. But for Brendon Fevola to try to spin some fucking fairy tale of him fucking taking a couple of months off and then just going there is not good. Surely not. Surely the AFL won't let that happen. So, Brendon Fevola is our flog of the week this week for starting trade rumours about Dustin Martin that has no merit other than just saying, I've got mail. Hey, bro, Gmail tells you that. What sort of fucking sources do you have? There's no fucking way. Like, if this was from a Carlton player, maybe I'd understand it because Brendon Fevola is obviously an ex-Carlton player. What sort of knowledge would he have from a Richmond perspective? I mean, I know they talk about his daughter dating a lot of, like, footballers or whatever, and I think she dated one of the Richmond players at one time. But if your daughter is the source, Brendon, you've got that is not a good source. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, that's basically all we've got for the flog of the week this week, guys. So, let's get into the round of tips for round 13. Now, we do have two teams having the bye this week. I don't know why they've separated it like this, but Fremantle and Port Adelaide have the bye. So, my tips for this week are the Crows to beat Richmond on Thursday night. On Friday night, I've picked the Bulldogs to beat Brisbane. Saturday, I've picked Hawthorn to beat GWS. Saturday evening, I've picked the Eagles to beat North Melbourne. Saturday night, I've picked St Kilda to beat the Gold Coast Suns. On Sunday, early game, I've picked Geelong to beat Sydney. And on Sunday night, I've picked the Bombers to beat Carlton. And on the King's birthday clash, I have picked Collingwood to beat the Demons. Now, my brother has also given me his tips too, so let's just quickly roll through them. So my brother's tips this week are the Crows to beat Richmond, the Lions to beat the Western Bulldogs, the Giants to beat Hawthorn, the Eagles to beat North Melbourne, the Saints to beat the Gold Coast Suns, the Swans to beat Geelong, the Blues to beat Essendon, and then he's picked Melbourne to beat Collingwood. So, I'll read through the reasons why I've picked certain players. We've got a lot of different tips this week, me and my brother. So, my brother has picked Brisbane because there's no Norton, no Darcy, and the Dogs have been competitive over the past 4 to 5 games, so they are due for a loss. The Lions are coming off the bye, so should help them with their injury list, and being at Marvelous not being the MCG. I tend to disagree on one front that the Bulldogs are due for a loss. I think that they are playing decent football. I think the likes of getting Ed Richards back this week is going to be massive for them through their midfield. I am very interested to see how their forward line does work with only Ugle-Hagan there. I think that they are going to struggle to score Brisbane on that front, and I don't think Brisbane are even playing that well at Marvel the last couple of weeks. They even lost to Hawthorn, which is kind of their bunny team. I still think that the Brisbane Lions are struggling, and we've seen teams come off the bye and not play very well. They're not as match fit. So I think with the Bulldogs in some good form, I think they can bounce. I think they continue their good form that they've got. Just a simple one, Hawthorn against the Giants. I think the Giants again on the bye. I think they're going to come off a bit sluggish. And Hawthorn are in massive form, so I think you can't bet against them. And down in Tasmania as well, I think this is a massive win for Hawthorn. I think they continue their hot form. I don't think there's anything that I can question them about that. And that's where I'm kind of sitting on that front. Now, why have I picked Geelong over Sydney, you may wonder, being a Swans fan? The Swans, in recent years, have been absolutely terrible off the bye. I don't think they've actually won a game off the bye in at least 3 of the last 4 times they've done it. I know that they're not good. I've seen them play. I think Sydney don't come off the bye very well. So that's kind of where I'm leaning to here. I think Geelong, after last week as well, I think that they got back into a little bit of form, a little bit of the way they want to play. And I do think as well that the Geelong tools will make Sydney struggle a little bit, the likes of Cameron and Hawkins. I think that those two are due for a big game. And I think that this is where Geelong can get a big win here. I'm not going to write off Sydney by any means, but I think that Sydney, coming off the bye, will be a little bit sluggish. Maybe the match fitness will be there. I would not be surprised if Sydney go and win this game. This is a roughy pick for me. The next one is Essendon versus Carlton, another different tip. So, my brother has gone with Carlton. He says, with no Langford, it's a bigger loss for the Bombers than they may realise. Cripps and Walsh are in good form. Sard and McGovern back. They've looked very good and better defensively. I agree with that. The reason why I've gone the Bombers here is I kind of thought they were due for a loss, and the Gold Coast have been in good form up at home. The fact that Essendon now will kind of look at the issues that they do have. I think when you win a lot of games in a row, it does kind of paint over the cracks a little bit, cover the cracks up. So I do think there has been a couple of issues the last couple of weeks for the Bombers that they probably haven't addressed. I think it's their clearance game. They've kind of petered off a little bit. So I do think Essendon will try to address that a little bit more. Langford may be a big loss. I'm not too sure if he will be out. If he is out, that is a big loss. But I do think that Essendon are in very good form at the moment. I don't think that Carlton... I still don't trust them too much, to be honest with you. I think that their way they go forward is still not the best. I don't like the way they just bomb long. Against Port Adelaide, they were able to run away with it. But we've seen Port Adelaide lose against top teams before. So I'm not a truster on Carlton just yet. So I actually trust Essendon a bit more. Now, I may grow to regret that. I don't know. As soon as I said it, I felt like a dark feeling in my chest. So I may be having a heart attack, or I may be telling the hard truths here. I don't know. But I do think that Essendon, I trust them a bit more at the moment. And I don't trust how Carlton are going forward. I do think that the likes of Walsh and Cripps are playing well. But I do think that Essendon's midfield has been very good. I think that Caldwell will go to Walsh and try to bring him down. We saw when Sydney did that. They did stop a lot of the game from Carlton. I'll be interested to see how Zach Merritt goes as well. I think Zach Merritt will have a big game for this one. And I do think that Goldstein will come back. He'll be fine. He'll be in the team. And I think that was a big loss against the Gold Coast last week. Now, to the last game. Collingwood versus Melbourne. What a game this is going to be. Collingwood with all the injuries. Melbourne with coming off a shocking loss. My brother's basically gone with Melbourne. They have to respond after that poor loss. I tend to agree. Collingwood's injuries, middle to long term. Can't see them winning this game with all their injury concerns. I still think Collingwood here on the fact that if they converted their chances in that first quarter against the Bulldogs, I think they would have won that game. Not to say that the misses that they had cost them, but on the fact that I think they would have had the momentum to continue with that form in that game. That's what I'm kind of looking at here. I think the Collingwood, at the moment, they'll be fine. I think they have enough there to kick a winning score. I think Ash Johnson gets dropped to the reserves, I'm going to be honest. I'm sorry, Ash, but you had a terrible game on the weekend. And I think they made a wrong decision as well with their sub call. I think they shouldn't have called off John Noble. I think they should have called off Ash Johnson or Jack Bytel. I think they cost them late in the game when they needed some run and carry. I think Craig McRae will realise that. I think they'll fix up what the issues they had last week, Collingwood. I think they'll be fine. I feel like maybe I'm a Collingwood supporter because I continue to keep on picking them and people keep on saying, dude, you're an idiot. Why do you keep on picking Collingwood? I think they're going to win this game. And Melbourne, I think they'll respond a little bit from that performance. There's not much going Melbourne's way at the moment. Like I talked about throughout the podcast with the Melbourne situation, there's not a lot coming back for them this week either. And Stephen May will be able to patrol that back line. But I think their midfield's going to struggle here. I think with Collingwood's pace around the midfield as well, if Petrarca and Oliver, if they lose the ball outside the inner ring of the stoppage and it gets onto the outside, Collingwood will kill them. So that's kind of where I'm looking at for that one as well. I will just quickly take a look at the tipping league because I've got to take a look at that. Looking at it right now, Brendan S. still leads in the tipping comp. He sits on 74 tips, so he's doing really well. He got 4 last week. Looking at the highest tips this week though, 7 tips from Daniel. Congratulations to him. That's a massive round because a lot of people, this is a big round that some people fell off a bit. I was close to it until the last 4 games. Thank God I got those tips because I was in trouble. I fell down to 5th spot. Oh no, I only got 3 tips. Oh yeah, because how did I only get? Oh, I only got the last 3 tips. Sorry, there's 7 games this week. I'm an idiot. I only got 3, so I fell down quite a lot. My brother, he got 4. Daniel, congratulations. Got to say that again. 7 tips. He jumped up the ladder quite a bit there actually, but. I got to talk about this. I'm sorry, Brooke, but 1 tip this week. How did you get 1? That means I think that means you tipped Geelong over Richmond, and that's it. I don't know if you can still view the tips. Or we can look at what you've done here, Brooke, because this is not good enough. You picked Port. Ooh, Port over Carlton. Yeah, I did that. Collingwood over Western Bulldogs. I did that too. Crows over Hawthorn. I did that too. West Coast over St Kilda. I did that too. Geelong, that's the one she did get. Melbourne over Fremantle. I can't believe so many people pick Melbourne over Fremantle. I thought that was almost a fucking gimme at this point. And then Essendon over Gold Coast. Yeah, I mean, I get on their form, but they're not really. I just thought they were due. So Daniel got a full ladder this week, didn't he? He did. Good job to Daniel. A full week, which is pretty tough because because he got that, he's back in the race. He was down the bottom. I remember Daniel was down the bottom, I think at one point. So he's jumped all the way up into 8th spot. And right now, the tipping league's still pretty tight. Like from bottom to top, it's only 8 tips. And if you do what Daniel did, you could jump yourself all the way up into the top of the ladder by a round. So congratulations to him. But Brendon S still leads the tipping comp. He's been leading for the majority of the year as well, same like the AFL Fantasy League. So congratulations to him. So those are the 8 games this week, guys. Those are our tips for this week. Of course, let us know down below who you believe will be winning this week. If you think my tips are completely wrong or they are completely right, you think I am perfect, let me know either way down below. Let's move on. Final part of this podcast is our AFL Fantasy Breakdown. And guys, you were talking to another... I think I won this week. Yeah, I won. I am insane. Get on my level. I think I've won my last 5 games. Let's just have a quick look. Stop. Get away. I don't want to review AFL Fantasy. The app sucks. Deal with it. How am I still 4-1, bro? Oh, whatever. All right. Well, I still won. So get on my level, guys. Obviously. Looking at last week, I was very lucky to win on the fact that I had Jordan Dawson as my captain. I don't know why I made the stupid decision to pick up Jordan Dawson and then put him as my captain straight away. Every single time I've done that, no matter if there's injury concerns or not, I know there was a bit of an injury concern with him. I didn't know until after the game, thanks AFL. Thanks the Adelaide Crows. But every single time I do that, I make a stupid decision and they do nothing. He got 60, which was 120 for me, so that's not good. Other than that, though, the rest of my team was performing pretty nicely. Dacos, 110, take that. Hayden Young, massive year he's had. He's all Australian form. That's maybe a big call. But he's having a very good year, Hayden Young. Elliot Yeo, 98, happy with that. Walsh, 133, happy with that. Nick Martin, 97. They didn't have a lot of high scorers, so I'll take that. Matt Crouch, 133. Annoying that he's injured now, so I have to get rid of him, but he played massive. Bontempelli, 159. What a last quarter he had in that game. Max Gorn, 122. Good on him. Sam Flanders back in the team, 113. Absolutely brilliant. Alex Sexton with the 102. He's in good form. And Ollie Dempsey, 104 as well. Harley Reid with the 75 was good, but he probably should have got more. It was a very good tagging role for Marcus Winhager. A couple of concerns. Riley Bonner wasn't the greatest. He only got 60. Closey, 49. Meh. What else? And I don't know why I picked up Fantasia. I had to pick up a forward to play this week, and I had Fantasia. He had, to be fair, I think he had 32 at half time. Then he got 38, and then got subbed out, so that was crap. And Darcy Wilson, a little bit of disappointing performance. He got 59, but I'll take that at the end of the day. So, looking at my trades this week, I've made 3 trades, of course. So this week, I've got rid of Matt Crouch, and I've picked back up Luke Davies-Uniacke. Basically because of he's off the bye now. I'll get him through. He was in good form before the bye, so I think I'll be fine. I got rid of Jai Clark as my rookie, and I've picked up Morris from the Brisbane Lions. Again, I think he'll be fine. He'll be back in the team, and he'll hold my spot at least through the buys. And then I've got rid of Harley Reid, and I've picked up Zach Fisher. So I had a choice between Harley Reid and Ollie Dempsey as to which one I was going to get rid of this week. All the way through until Saturday afternoon, I was saying Ollie Dempsey. And then I was going to get rid of Ollie Dempsey. Then Harley Reid did the tackle, and Ollie Dempsey got 100. So kind of took that decision out of my hands. I was like, all right, look, Harley, if you want to leave the team so bad, fine, you can take that spot from me. But I was always going to get Zach Fisher off the bye. Obviously, the likes of Sydney, Brisbane, GWS, and North Melbourne now, obviously, all of them don't have a bye anymore. So it's good to pick up those sort of players now. If you're looking for a guide on how to do this, not that I'm that good at it, but that's definitely at the point where you need to try and get players now who are off the bye. So look for North Melbourne players, look for Brisbane, look for Sydney, look for Giants players at the moment. That's where I'm kind of going for now. My ranking for AFL Fantasy is 20,000. How am I winning games against you guys? You guys have got a lift right now because this is really poor from all of you, and I'm very disappointed. But of course, this week, my vice captain is going to go on Jordan Dawson. That's tough because I don't even know if he's going to play. That will be a wait and see. If he's all good to go against Richmond, I'll leave it. But that's just what I'm kind of thinking at the moment. That's definitely a major change. And my captain this week is Max Gorn. Despite Darcy Cameron being in decent form for the Pies, I think that he's still conceding quite a lot. So I do think that Max Gorn's due for a big game as well. I think that he'll want to respond. I know he played really well against Fremantle. He's one of the few good performers. But I do think this week he's going to be like, all right, boys, we got to play better than that. And he'll lead from the front. So that's kind of what I'm looking at this week. Obviously, the only teams that are buys, which are Fremantle and Port Adelaide, I only have one player from those two teams. So that's not really a concern for me. So Hayden Young's the only one I've had to take out this week. So that's all good on my front. Now, let's look at the league. So the AFL Fantasy League, of course, I won this week. I've won at least 5 of the last 6. Let's be honest. I don't know where the hell that one's come from, that I'm still not 5 in a row. I should be the only one in the league that has 5 in a row. There's no one else, so I should be. Anyway, I've climbed up from, I think, 12th 3 weeks ago to 6th. So, I mean, not to pat myself in the back enough, but my shoulder's hurting from doing that too much. But I'm currently sitting in 6th spot, so I'm happy with that. Brad SCG still on top in this league. Congratulations, man. He's still holding top spot. He hasn't lost it all year, I don't think. Sitting in 2nd, he's jumped up inverted banana into 2nd spot. Davies Diggers is in 3rd. And Shillings for Billings, big fall from him. He's fallen down to 4th spot. Now, looking at my brother, I don't know what he's doing. I mean, at this point, he might as well just give up. He's in 14th spot. The funny thing is, though, I think he's got an overall... Yeah, looking at the overall ladder right now, that's actually an interesting look at. Inverted Banana is the top scorer on terms of overall score. Seymour Bush, love to say your name, man. He is in 4th spot right now in the overall scorers. But... he sits in 13th in the head-to-head ladder. So right now he needs to improve on the head-to-head front. Me, on the other hand, I'm sitting in, I think it's 10th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12th. I'm sitting in 12th best score, which is 1 in front of my brother. Holy crap. How the hell am I that high up on the ladder? If I in the head-to-head front, I just hold on for the close wins, unfortunately, guys. I think that's just what we can take away from this. But yeah, right now I'm currently sitting in the 6th spot on the head-to-head ladder, and this week, who do I play? I play West Coast Simpson, which is a team in 15th spot. I'm getting some good teams to play around the buys, so that's good for me. Anyway, that's basically the AFL fantasy cover, guys. After all that being said, that is the end of the Boundary Riders podcast. So thank you for listening, guys. Thank you for watching. If you did listen to this on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars and, of course, follow so you are notified on every single episode of the podcast, the review, and the trade video, which we just dropped today when I'm recording, but a couple of days ago when you guys watch this on Wednesday morning. And, of course, if you're on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. The channel is growing like absolute craziness. It's going bonkers. It's going like, you know those crazy guys at the car shows? It's going crazy! But anyway, I'm getting too cold, guys. So I'm going to end it here. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you all next week.